Thank you for listening to the BJJ Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJ Podcast. This is episode 252, the BJJ Extra. We have an interview this week with Seth Daniels, CEO of Fight to Win Pro Promotions. I'm on the line here with my good buddy Byron and my other good buddy Gary. How you guys doing today?
Doing great. Had a great day so far. A little bit of rolling, and a little bit of recovering.
The rolling's better than the recovering.
That's good. You got to do both, though.
Yep. But hey, we got an awesome guest this week, as Joe said, Seth Daniels. And, one thing I just want to mention is, I just learned a new way to do a Kimura about a month ago when Seth was posting his 4 moves on Facebook there. And, man, it has really changed my game in the last month. And it's kind of like what we were talking about, Byron, earlier with when we were talking with Brian Freeman about the way he grabs a hand. And Seth has changed my game just from watching one video. So thank you, Seth.
Yeah, check out that video. I'll try to find it and put a link to that in the show notes, make it easy for you to find. Fight to Win has been awesome to watch them grow and develop as a company, as a promotion, top notch, and they're very busy. There's always Fight to Wins, coming up, and it's just cool to see the sport.
Yeah, as we're recording this, on this day, there'll be a Fight to Win Pro, and Byron, one of our previous guests, will be on the card. Zach Gell's going to be competing, so
cool.
I'll take advantage of my new subscription to Flow Grappling and try and check that out tonight.
And that's cool. Yeah, so we're recording this, and obviously it doesn't air the same day, but go check it out. And with all that Flow Grappling, you can go back and watch past Fight to Wins as well. So really cool opportunity. Joe got an interview with Seth Daniels. You might be saying, why is there an episode today? Well, typically they come out once a week. This is our BjjBrick Extra episode. We have 2 episodes the first week of the month, and just a little extra bit that we're giving to you guys. And Joe's really spearheaded the initiative on this one, on the extra episodes, and he's done the interviews and done a lot of that work, and really appreciate that. And great interview, Joe. I'm really impressed with your interview skills, my man.
Thanks, man. I will say something about the interview. It's coming up in a little bit. Seth did refer to the South as the white trash neighborhoods of America. So he had a bad experience in Atlanta and got some stuff stolen, car broken into, some stuff stolen. But when he does put on promotions down here, show up, fight hard, be a good crowd, and we'll change his mind.
Yeah. And the views of some of the people on the show are not always the views of the podcast in itself. But we don't bring people on here to debate typically. We let them say, tell their story and say what's happening. And great to have Seth on the show.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Definitely check out our BJ Extra. That's when we're going to have a town hall debate. Byron and Joe are going to be leading that one. So if you ever see that come out, it's a crazy day.
Gary will be the moderator. Well, instead, this is a little bit different of an episode. We do it once a month. We don't have a quote of the week. We also don't have an article of the week. We have a tip of the episode. That just sounds weird. Tip of the month. Tip of the month, where any more than that is just too much. But once a month, we can give you a tip. And the basic tip is have something to work on in every position. This will help grow your jiu-jitsu. So it's easy. I got a really good armbar from guard. I'm working on that. That's perfect. And so you pull guard and you're working on the armbar from guard, and you know what? Your guard gets passed. Or maybe somebody pulls guard on you. There's a lot of things that could kind of throw that plan awry. And the big thing is, no matter where you are, have something like a goal. Maybe it's mount escapes. When they have mount, you want to try this particular escape. Maybe when you have somebody's back, you want to work on bow and arrow choke. Or maybe when you get side control, you're really working on your Darce choke. I don't know anything in particular as far as your game, obviously. But if you have a goal, you're not just kind of hanging out in that position without any sort of objective. And it does a couple things. It helps you learn more efficiently, and it also will help reduce frustration, because when you're working an armbar from guard and they pass your guard, now you can work the escape you've studied and thought about, and just boom, you're still learning. You're not frustrated. You're in the learning mode, working this escape, getting your hands in position, moving your hips, and doing what you need to do to escape. Oh, whoops, he mounted. That's perfect. I've been wanting to work this mounted escape for a long time, and now I get the opportunity. And I think it helps with just making sure that the rolling portion isn't super frustrating, because every position, whether it's good or bad for you, you're working on something.
Yeah, that's a great point, Byron. And I do want to just give you a little bit of kudos. Normally, I'm always trying to bust on you because you bust on me twice as much. But, hey, watching Byron give a escape seminar there last week, I neglect my frames a lot. And today was the first day back. I tried to roll with a bad wheel. And I happened to get a 260-pound Goliath while I'm injured. And I couldn't use my left leg so this person could pass my guard pretty easily. Normally, I want to try to keep this guy wrapped up and don't want him to get a good position. But he was getting position, and I was really working my frames. And it kept me alive. And it was just something going back, like what you were saying. That's something I don't really work that much in that position. But I couldn't partake in the seminar because of my bad wheel. But I sat there and watched, and I think I got a ton out of just watching, and it really helped today. So thank you. And it was just something I'm working on in a position that I normally didn't work on. That I'd spend more time, trying to get the sweep or pull off a submission versus, working my frames. And I think I'm going to spend a little bit of time working my frames and get better there. Yeah,
Gary, that means a lot that actually helped you. And I think it was, we were talking about it a few episodes back about frames. And I think you made the joke about something about you can't control what's in the frame and how it looks, but you can control how good the frame is. And the picture in the frame might be kind of ugly, but the frame is good, right, Gary?
Yeah. Hey, it's all about frames. All about the frame.
So this is a good tip for anybody doing jiu-jitsu. One thing I would add to it is it helps if your goals, if accomplishing one and then you have another goal right behind that and it builds on the other. We had Tim Sled in for our BJJBrick experience recently. We had a blast. And one thing I liked about Tim's seminars, he covered a lot of material, 4 different positions. But from each position, the end goal was to end with a submission. So you have a goal of controlling the hips. We were working from side control, controlling the hips, applying pressure, moving into the right position, creating the right angle, and all these things end up with a submission. So I think that's important, always be moving towards that. Sort of like what you said, Gary, it's been a few weeks, but grappling is like banking. And you said that you can't just walk in and close alone, but you've got to do some setup work for it. You got to get to know the customer. You got to find out what their needs are. You got to check their credit. And all these things are leading towards the end goal of closing the loan. So I see it the same way, Gary.
Man, that's awesome, Joe. I'm going to use that. That's pretty cool. Actually, I don't think I said that, but I think Joe just knows I'm a banker, but that's a good analogy, Joe. I think it's awesome.
Take that one to work, Gary, and tell everybody that banking is just like grappling, and then explain to them how controlling the position and setting something up.
First of all, they all think I'm strange anyhow, and then I start throwing that on there.
Once they get to know you, yeah. Once they get to, they'll know you're strange.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, though, Joe, that was a great analogy. It is true.
Well, you said something like that. I might have misquoted you, but you said
if
something
I did, I
like
didn't remember. Yeah, but yeah, that's great.
I want to give a quick mention of an audiobook I made called 6 BJJ Training Games, where it helps you experiment with your own game on the mat live while you're rolling. It's a little over an hour long. It's $5.99. It's an audiobook, so it's much like a podcast. You just hit play and you listen, and it's really just things I have done over the past 15 or so years where I'm on the mat and you know what, I'm tired of just trying to, necessarily pass and submit or sweep somebody. Let's do something a little different. Let's see what I could do with this particular role that's different. And they really have opened up my understanding of jiu-jitsu. And so I call them 6 training games. The person that you're rolling with doesn't even have to know you're doing them. They don't have to be a willing participant at all. It's in fact better if they just try to roll like normal and you're doing things that are a little bit different. But and it does present challenges to you. You won't be bringing your A game while you're playing these games, but your A game might change over the course of a few weeks even and become stronger. So check it out. It'll be linked in the show notes. 6 BJJ training games.
Byron, that was a good quote. Your A game may become stronger because of what you're doing. And I like that. It goes back to, me working on my frames. I'm just going to get better working on something and, going to your weak side all the time. It's just going to make us a better grappler. And that's what this is all about. But I've actually used stuff in your book and it's definitely helped me out. So Byron, you get 2 kudos from me this week.
Man, I'm saving them up, Gary.
Yeah, but don't worry. The end's coming shortly.
Great.
Okay, well, let's roll our interview with Seth Daniels, and we'll get back to you when we're done.
He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
I have tapped out many black belts with what I call a reverse armbar. I bend the elbow the correct way. No one knows why so many black belts have tapped to this, but they do. When I'm cutting weight and I'm hungry, I've been known to eat my opponent's fear by the bowlful. My thumbprint is on the pattern of a gold weave gi.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
Hey, I'd like to welcome Seth Daniels to the BjjBrick Podcast. Seth is the CEO of Fight to Win Pro Promotions and accomplished grappler himself. Seth, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So I didn't want to get it wrong, so I didn't introduce your rank. Last I saw you were a brown belt. Are you still at brown belt?
No, I'm a black belt.
Okay. Who do you train under?
I'm all Easton in Denver, Colorado. It's a Henzo Gracie school.
Seth, how did you get involved in the martial arts? What was your first introduction?
I started doing judo when I was at about the age of 3 years old, and I did that competitively until I was about 19. And then I moved in to the Olympic Training Center, and I lived there. And then had some injuries, had some surgeries, and took about 5 years off of training martial arts and just started working. And then, you get to the point, especially if you were brought up in it, where you miss it. And eventually found myself, in a jiu-jitsu school as a white belt at the age of 25.
Nice. So that's 15, 16 years of judo. That's a lot of slams. Are you paying a price for it, or starting as a kid, you just absorb all that?
No, I'm pretty beat up. I've had 4 or 5 hand surgeries, both my shoulders, my hip, my back and neck are pretty messed up. I mean, I have really bad arthritis from judo, and I started having arthritis problems when I was about 16 years old. And that was like, when my hands went out, I started having to overcompensate with my shoulders. And then my shoulders went out, and then I started, with my hips, and my hips went out. It was just like, I was a 10-time national champion and a high school national champion, coming up. So I was pretty good. And I put my body through the ringer, and I just got to the point when I was like 19. I had some attitude issues when it comes to the way I presented myself and the way I handled myself when I was competing, and cost me a spot on the junior world team. And just kind of arrogant and stupid at the time, and just thought I didn't want to do it anymore, and I stepped away from it, and that was that.
Well, that's I didn't know that about you, that you'd been doing hardcore combat sports since such a young age, up through high school.
Yeah,
that's awesome. How do you think that judo background affects your jiu-jitsu game? Did you kind of leave it aside and start fresh, or do you carry a lot of the techniques and strategies with you?
I mean, honestly, like, other than my foot sweeps, judo is pretty bad for you when it comes to switching over from judo to jiu-jitsu. A lot of the techniques that you do in judo, you end up in a bad position in jiu-jitsu because of the way that you roll and the way you roll through things. I mean, obviously grip fighting is key in jiu-jitsu, but if you can just use your grip fighting skills, and take away all the technique you learn when it comes to throwing, that's probably going to be your best way of translating judo over to jiu-jitsu. But I obviously brought my foot sweep game with me from judo, but it's pretty much it, man. I've got a couple moves I do from judo, but I mean, for the most part, they're just not very functional. And I'm so beat up now, dude. It's like, all the people, they make the post about, pulling guard is for, wussies and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, when you're beat up, like I don't want to stay on my feet. I go for one foot sweep in a match, and if I get it, great. If not, I'll just sit down. I don't care.
Yeah, pulling guard.
You should be good everywhere.
Yeah, pulling guard is for people that want to do this for a long time.
Well, I mean, it just depends on your game and where you're at. I mean, especially at our age. I don't know how old you are, but I'm nearing 40. And I got to train with what works for me right now. Right now, I've got a busted left arm, like from my shoulder to my fingertips. I don't know what's wrong with me. So I got to do a lot of stuff where I'm hiding my left arm, Yeah. And best way to hide your left arm is probably going to be half guard, keep half guard, and stuff like that. So I think a lot of my game, I've just abridged from, instead of getting hurt and sitting on the sidelines, of just getting in there and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So you can keep going.
Right, always evolving, and like you say, sometimes evolving with injuries. And I mean, I know guys that have jacked their neck up, and at one time the triangle was a go-to move for them, and they can't do it anymore. So you got to move on and find something else that does work for you.
Triangle was my money move until I blew my MCL. I blew my MCL out. I can't do triangles anymore, so I quit doing it. I only switched recently to. I used to have a pretty decent guard, and now all I do is half guard. I think probably some of that comes from where I train at. That's kind of the style that we do. To get into the leg lock game and all that kind of stuff. But it's just one of those things, man. You just gotta if you want to keep doing this. I got in a car accident about 8 years ago, hurt my neck really bad, and that was one of the reasons I quit wrestling so much. I've had back problems ever since then. So I mean, it's just one of those things. Just got to keep rolling.
Yep. Hey, I recently watched a video series you put out, Seth's Only 4 Moves. Is that something old I dredged up, or is that kind of recent?
No, I just put that out. I've been asked to teach a bunch of seminars and do teach private lessons, because I don't teach at my school. Like I would much rather be a student than an instructor. I think people discount that so much when they're coming up. Like I just switched over to the school I'm at about 2 years ago. And before then, I was teaching at my other school, and I know that my school I was at before was a good school, but my jiu-jitsu's gotten so much better from when I switched over to being simply just a student versus being an instructor. Nothing wrong with being an instructor. It's just I still want to. I have a ton to learn still, and I'd rather be a dues paying student, and and then the other thing is I don't like teaching people, man. Like one of the things that I had the biggest problem with, and I don't know how people do it, is when you're teaching a class and you got white belts, blue belts, all the way up to brown and black belts, and they're like, especially seminars are the worst, because it's like, how do you gauge like your teaching to everyone in the room? Penzo says to teach to the best person in the room, but with my stuff, with the foot sweeps and stuff like that, like if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
So it's like I just feel like I would put a few videos out, and then people would quit asking me to do seminars, and then now it's gotten worse. And now I'm getting more people hitting me up, wanting me to do seminars because they thought the videos were funny when I was just being myself. I was just being serious. But,
well, you may have revolutionized my game with some advice in there. I hadn't really thought too much about ensuring that my opponent was always smaller, weaker, and less skilled than myself. So
it helps.
Yep, it helps.
It definitely helps. If you're in the room at your gym and you feel like winning that day, just find the weaker, most feeble, injured people and beat them up. Which is funny because that's generally not what I do. Like in my room. Like today, we have like 9 black belts on the mat, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I got murdered like 8 of the rounds. So yeah, near the end, I was like, you know what? Where's a 19-year-old, 130-pound girl that I can beat up?
Right.
So I mean, like that way you at least leave feeling a little bit good about yourself.
Yeah. Let me be the hammer for 1 round.
Yeah, just 1 round.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I'll get beat up, But no, but seriously. I mean, that whole thing, that was just a joke. I wasn't being serious about that. But I'm actually shooting the DVD for BJJ Fanatics in July. So I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of foot sweep series and some counter wrestling and some cool stuff like that and my twister stuff. So I guess it was good enough. Videos were good enough that Fanatics wants me to make a DVD for it. So I'll go ahead and do that. We'll see how that comes out.
Even in that,
anybody's stupid enough to find it.
Oh, I don't know. Even in that short video you did, I like the way that you emphasize you're taking his head and pushing it the opposite direction. I mean, for a 5-minute video, I found value in it. And when you put that video out for DVD Fanatics, make sure and send us a link, and we'll put it in the show notes. Even if it's after this show's already aired, we'll make sure there's a link in it. So anybody that Googles your name and finds our podcast, they'll find a link to that.
Thanks, man. That's cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So your series there on the 4 moves that Seth knows, so it did get me to thinking. There's one train of thought that says I want to have a lot of attacks and I'm just going to be busy, keep my opponent guessing, and so I need to learn a lot of moves. And there's the other methodology of I've got a few moves I'm really good at and I develop a way to get to that position. What end of the spectrum on that do you fall?
I think you need to have a core group of moves that you're really good at, and then you always need to be trying to learn new techniques, but not necessarily implementing them when you're competing. I mean, like I've been trying to learn leg locks now since I've been at my school for 2 years, and I consider myself like a blue belt in the leg lock game, but it's better than I was 2 years ago when I was a white belt at it, And so it's like I have those are my like core 4 moves that I go with. But I also, I have a decent passing game, and, I have some pretty nasty stuff from side control and but I mean, you should really drill, in my opinion, like your core moves, at least one move from every position, But like I said, though, I mean, I guess everybody's like, oh, well, when you compete, everybody's going to know what you have now. I'm like, I don't care if they know what I have, because that doesn't mean they're going to be able to stop it. They have to be able to stop it, and if they're focused on me twist or hook in their leg, they're not worried about me going to deep half guard, but they're not worried about me going to knee bars and heel hooks. So it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, it's also, if you're going to teach, you got to teach everything There's no secrets. You got to put everything out there because you're just bettering the community and you're bettering, the sport. But, I mean, there are some things in my videos that I show that I don't know if people have seen before, and not like I'm like this magical mind that made these moves up or anything. I just found ways that work for me and it might work for other people, So, I mean, that's what jiu-jitsu is all about. You see one thing and then you learn how to do it, and now it becomes part of your game. Then you teach it to everybody else, and the sport keeps growing and new techniques keep popping up. That was one of the main reasons judo has failed as a sport, because they've limited the amount of techniques people are allowed to do, and they've made it to where there's not really anything new.
Even recently, they've continued to get more restrictive. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's a horrible. Judo's a great sport. It's just run by horrible people. That's the biggest problem with it. It's run by a lot of bureaucrats and people that never even competed at the world and national level. They're just like, a bunch of dudes with mustaches that think they're tough, because they have some good job, and then they want to be referees and boss people around. I know, because my dad was one of them. You know, and they're not that good. Like, they don't get what it is to be like world class and elite. Whereas opposed to like refs in jiu-jitsu, they're the best of the best. Like, they're, you know, usually retired, very high level black belt that get the game. You know, I mean, I'm not a big fan of IBJJF because I don't like the way that they limit techniques. But, you know, I mean, we still see, you know, the great competitors out there refereeing, which you don't see that in judo.
Right, I got you. That definitely would make a difference. So, Seth, I imagine you've seen, would you say more than thousands? Would you say you've seen 10,000 grappling matches?
Probably. Before I started Fight to Win Pro, I've been putting on tournaments and MMA fights since 2008. You know, and our tournaments in Colorado pull over 1,500 competitors, and we were really big in Texas for a long time. That's kind of fizzled out, but we still are really successful in Colorado. And, you know, I mean, I've been watching matches my entire life since I was 3 years old. I spent every weekend in the gymnasium watching judo tournaments, you know. I probably competed myself in over 1,000 matches.
Yeah, I kind of figured that'd be the case. And so I was going to ask you a handful of questions about competition from the competitor's point of view. I'm sure your opinions would be valuable to people listening. The first thing I was wondering about is sort of the perfect window for peaking. And this is maybe not so important for the guy doing his first or second tournament, but once a guy gets into I'm a competitor, what's kind of the perfect window? 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and what does your activity look like during that window?
Are you talking about for a training camp?
Yes, exactly.
For me, a training camp is 4 weeks, but I'm also always training. You know, I feel like 4 weeks out to turn it up when it comes to your strength conditioning, your diet, and your intensity in the gym is about all you need, because any more than that, you're just going to wind up getting injured.
Okay.
But I think you should always be training. That's why I think, you know, like, I fought MMA, and when MMA fight, I mean, that's 8 weeks minimum, you know? Because there's so many different elements in it. In jiu-jitsu, all you got to do is show up. That's all you got to do.
Right, and do what you do on the mats every night.
That's it. That's all you got to do. Show up and train. And there's really no reason to not do it unless you're sick.
Right.
If you're injured, you just work on something else. So, I mean, I just think as long as you're off training, 4 weeks is good. If you're one of those people that sits out on the couch for, you know, an exorbitant amount of time and then picks it up and starts fighting again, I think probably, you know, 6 to 8 weeks is probably where you need to be. But then again, you know, I'm an almost 40, you know, masters competitor that primarily competes one match in a day. You know, I don't do IBJJF. I don't do other tournaments. I do my own tournament. 20 matches in a day. Like, that's just because I don't have to pay for it. You know, but for the most part, you know, I mean, that's what works for me. But, you know, I mean, everybody's different, you know, but I think definitely the older we get, like, the less amount of time in preparation and the most amount of time just, you know, just being your normal practice is probably.
Now, on that 4 week period, do you taper off before the match? Do you have a period of time where you just kind of relax, or do you just train at a level that you can train up until the match?
I don't really, like, go super hard. Like, we have super hard practices, and I have to go super hard to survive. Because I'm by far, I mean, I'm not even close to being the top 10 black belt at my gym. Like, that's how many good guys I have in my gym. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, there's purple belts and brown belts that beat the crap out of me every day in my gym. So, like, you know, I have to set my intensity up per round. But that doesn't really change at all when I have a match coming up, you know? The main thing that changes for me is the nutrition. Because I can blow up. I get up to 230 pretty quick, and I usually compete at 205 to 180. So, like, that's the thing that right now I thought I was going to be fighting in Philly, which I'm not going to be allowed. My coaches aren't letting me. But, you know, if I was going to fight in Philly, it was like 4 weeks away. I started my diet today. But I'm going to start it anyways just because I'm shooting that video on July 14th, and I don't want to look like a big whale, you know, on my DVD. So I'm working on that.
So if you were going to compete, what would that weight cut be? I kind of lost track of your numbers there. How much weight were you looking?
Anywhere between 25 and 50 pounds.
Okay.
But then again, that's because I have very little control when it comes to eating, you know, desserts and food, especially because I'm on the road 3 days a week, you know. So it's like When you're on the road, like you eat fast food, you eat pizza, you eat a bunch of crap, you know? And I mean, it's hard for me, man. Like if I don't have a fight scheduled, like it's really hard to eat well. Like I just don't care, you know, like instead of eating one piece of pizza, I'll eat 4, you know? And so it's a discipline thing. And when I have fights coming up, it's really easy to be disciplined. And when I don't, it's really hard.
Yeah, I think
I
competition.
think a lot of what's wrong with the American public, you know. I mean, you know, is I'm lucky I have something to train for, and a lot of people that don't train, don't do jiu-jitsu, you know, what's the motivation to go to that 24-hour fitness and lift weights for 30 minutes, like to look better? Like who cares how good you look? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a mental thing, and I think that's one of the main reasons that a lot of people struggle when it comes to weight loss and staying healthy is there's no end. There's no goal, you know. It's like, so your goal is to hit a number on a pincher or a scale. It's like, how motivating is that? Seriously,
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah, I definitely think competition.
If you're going to fight somebody, you better be in shape. You know, especially at black belt level, dude. There's no easy matches, bro. Like I've had, you know, 7 black belt matches now, and every single one of them, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, they were like, you know, if I didn't get ready for this, I was going to get crap beat out of me. You know?
Yeah. For students going to a tournament, what are some good elements of a good pre-fight routine or a good warm-up? I mean, do you put any credence in that, first of all? I kind of do. I think if a guy's got a good routine and a good warm-up, he's setting himself up for success. What are some elements of a good...
We have a walking series that we do at my strength and conditioning program. It's like a warm-up series. So I do that, and then I run for 2 matches before mine, and then that's all I do. I don't really like to warm up a ton, but I don't mainly do that because usually I fight on my own shows that I'm announcing, you know? So I'm announcing the show, I'm doing the music, the sound, the video, I'm doing all that, and then I just step out like 2 matches before and fight, you know? If I was competing at Worlds or something like that, you know, you got to think about it as if you're in the gym, right? And you're never best on your first roll, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're best by like your 3rd roll. So if you train hard enough to get a good sweat into, you feel like you're on your 3rd roll, then you're probably going to find more success.
Yep, that's good advice. What are some mistakes you see guys make coming in pre-fight, especially not necessarily during the match, but you see anybody doing things that you look at and you're like that you're not setting yourself up to win?
Taking pre-workout before they compete, that's a big no-no, because they don't especially when you're younger in a white belt or an early blue belt, you don't understand about the adrenaline factor that you're going to have when competing, and so you take pre-workout and stuff like that, and you just gas out, you know? I feel like that's a big mistake that a lot of people make.
So that basically just amplifies the effects of an adrenaline dump.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had not thought about that before, but that's a good one. How about, I don't know if this is, I think this could be a mistake. How do you feel about guys that come in and they're sort of play into the rule set or they play to their opponent's weakness? For context, I'll give you an example. I had a friend do one of these super fight type shows a month or 2 ago, and I asked him about his game plan, and he says, well, I understand my opponent's mostly a no-gi guy, so I'm going to come out and play butterfly guard. Or not butterfly guard, spider guard. And it was 2 weeks before the match, and I'm not his coach, so I didn't really say anything, but I thought to myself, you've never played spider guard once when I'm rolling with you, and now you're going to pull this out of the hat because you think your opponent will be weak in that position.
Yeah, my game plan I never have game plan. My game plan is always the same thing. I'm going to try to foot sweep him and get him to turtle up or snap him down and get him to turtle. And then that's the only thing I care about. After that, whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, he takes me down, I take him down. You start rolling. It's just like practice, you know. But, I mean, then again, I've had 1,000 matches. And I also don't really care if I win or lose. I think that's one of the methodologies, especially in Fight to Win, that helps is that if you have the mindset that you're going out there and it's better to win or lose by I would rather lose by a submission than win by a decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I'm going out there, I'm trying to finish my guy, and I'm going to throw all my best stuff at him. And if we wind up going into decision, I just assume I lost. You know, and that's just my mindset when I go out there. But I don't care if I lose. Like, all I care about is that I compete to my best. I fought 4 times in 3 weeks in March. I fought 3 times in 4 weeks. And the first one, I fought this guy, Brian Marvin, who's really, really talented. And he just dominated me. He pulled guard. I wasn't able to pass his guard. And then he Bravo chugged me, and I knew exactly what he was going to do. And I trained to prevent him from doing it. And his offense is better than my defense. That's his money move, and I spent 2 weeks trying to practice on defending the money move instead of just worrying about my game.
Yeah.
And that hurt me. And then I went to New Orleans the next week, and I killed my guy in like 30 seconds. And then I fought in Cleveland on a short notice match in like 10 days notice. I was like in Orlando with my family. I wasn't even training, but I needed to fill a match for a guy. I couldn't find anybody to fight him, so I stepped up, and I lost a split decision in the match, you know. And that match, I was so much happier about that performance even than I was about the guy I killed in New Orleans, because the guy I fought in Cleveland was better than I was. And I threw all my best stuff at him, and I gassed out, you know, but I was attacking the whole time. And I could have won, you know, depending on what the referee saw. I thought he won, you know. So, you know, I was just happy with the performance. I didn't even care. But the one in Houston where I just got dominated and didn't do anything, that one hurt. Because I was just like, I couldn't get out of my head. I was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's better to go out there and play your game and just see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, the last 2 tournaments I did, one was I'm in my 50s, so you know, if I compete at my age bracket, sometimes there's not a lot of guys in the tournament, and I went to one, and it was 2 out of 3. There was only me and one other guy there, and I lost 2 rounds in a row, and then they're like, "Here's your silver medal," and I'm like, "Silver medal?" You know, there's nothing satisfying about that at all to me. And then the next
there's
one,
nothing satisfying, but if you went out there, like I've lost in tournaments where I'm in a division of 3 and I get 3rd or whatever, you know. I mean, it happens all the time in local tournaments. But if I go out there and I fought super hard, even if I lost, you know, it's like, cool, at least I got something for going out there and giving it everything I have.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any shame in that. There is shame in taking a 3rd place in a division of 3 and then thanking all your teammates and taking podium pictures and acting like you won. There is shame in that, but there's no shame in going out there and giving it all your best and picking up whatever they give you. That is just what it is.
Yep, that's all you can do anyway, whether there's one guy in your division or 15. All you can go out there is give it your best and know that you left it all on the mat. So,
and you can't control that.
Yep. So on the show, we've been talking a little bit about you can learn something from everyone, and that's a common. You hear that a lot in jiu-jitsu. It's not always that easy, but do you ever see like kids or brand new people at tournaments doing something and be like, never seen it before, but that could be interesting. Do you ever see anything by kids?
Yeah, all the time, man. I mean, I don't have a lot of kids matches on the show. Like, I'm very picky about the kids. I got to make sure it's like a super equal match, because our rules for kids are super dangerous, you know. And so it's just like I'm real picky about that. But I mean, we've had some kids on the show. They're just amazing, you know, and they go out there and throw everything they have. You can learn something from everybody. You can learn stuff from white belts. You really can. You can't have a closed mind to think that you can only learn from people that are higher ranked than you.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not how it works. You know, absolutely. I came up with all those split suits when I was a white belt, blue belt.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hitting those for 12 years in jiu-jitsu. You know.
Yeah, so, they're money.
Yeah, you never know what people's backgrounds are.
Yeah.
You can definitely learn from everyone.
Yeah. Did you have some explaining to do when you first started jiu-jitsu? You ever get on the mat and people just think they're going to come in and walk through you because you're a white belt?
Well, not really. I mean, the way I got into jiu-jitsu is like I was getting tattooed by my tattoo artist, and I was just like sitting there and trying to be cool. And, you know, he was a fighter and I'd call it fighter. So I was bragging about all my wrestling and judo accomplishments, and he did what, all of us do when someone tries to act tough is you invite him into the gym to beat the crap out of him. So, when I went into the gym, I was big, dude. I was like 240 pounds, pretty solid, and, I was giving everybody the toughest minute they could possibly handle, and then they would just beat the crap out of me. It was very humbling,
Nice.
And that's one of the best things about jiu-jitsu. No matter how tough and cool you think you are, you find out how untough and how uncool you are
Yeah.
the second you step on those mats.
Yep.
It really changes your mindset about yourself.
Hey, Seth, before we start running out of time, I want to talk a little specifically about Fight to Win, if that's okay.
Sure.
First off, how many different rule sets or tournament styles are you promoting right now? Are you only doing the Fight to Win, or what else you got going on?
We only do, for Fight to Win, it's Fight to Win rules, which is, it's submission only with a referee's decision. There's no heel hooks, no reaping in the gi, and everything's legal in no gi. And then we have 4 open tournaments a year that we host in Colorado that we pretty much run IBJJF rules without advantages. But, we've been doing that forever, and we have a huge following out here. And to be honest, I really run those tournaments because I make enough money on those to cover the losses and buy new equipment that we need for Fight to Win Pro. So, that's really the purpose of doing those tournaments. And I enjoy doing them at home. I don't really like doing them on the road, but when I can do them at home and see all the people, I've been training with for the past 12 years, and I'm pretty good friends with everybody in the community. So it's like a big, it's just a big day for the community, and everybody has a good time with it. My school's really supportive too, so that helps,
Nice. So how big is your footprint right now in Fight to Win Pro? Where are you guys doing events at?
We're in every major market in the United States outside of the white trash markets. So it's like, I don't like the South, I don't like the Southeast. It's just not, I like Florida. Florida's cool. Everywhere from, Texas all the way to Florida, every state in between. It's just not my speed, I really like the East Coast. I like the West Coast. We hit a couple of Midwest states like Chicago, Minnesota, Ohio. But for the most part, we're pretty much in every major market that I want to be in.
Okay.
And we're pretty much gone everywhere we're going to go, and then we just kind of figuring out where we want to go twice, where we want to go 3 times, where we go once a year. And it's basically based on the community, not even how much money we make in the cities. Like, I love Chicago. We don't make that much money in Chicago, but the crowd is so awesome that we go there 3 times a year because it's fun. I hate doing shows and the crowd sucks. When we went to Brooklyn, that crowd sucked. I even went on the stage and told them that Jersey was a much better crowd than them. And it's just like, it makes it so much more fun because this can get really, what's the word? It can get not boring, but we do it every weekend, so it's like, you remember the good ones because the good ones fuel you to keep going and to keep putting on the party. But it's like whenever, you throw the party, it's like you do all this work and the hot chick comes to your party and then she doesn't even talk to you. That's what it feels like, And then when you throw like the good party and everybody's banging on the mats and having a good time, you feel like the most popular guy in the room. And that's how it feels, And that's what we want to get out there. We want people to have a great time and put their phones down and enjoy the moment, and be part of the show and not just a spectator. That's really what we're looking for.
Right. So Chicago's got the best crowds. Have you noticed
in the country?
In the country, have you noticed that there's any place in particular where maybe the jiu-jitsu stands out? If somebody's thinking, I want to travel someplace to train jiu-jitsu, is there a city or a spot where you think they're ahead of the rest right now?
California and New York.
Yep. Okay.
Right, by far.
Yeah.
You just look at the standings. You got Baltimore is insane because you got Team Lord Irvin there, and they're amazing. And then Northern California, Southern California, jiu-jitsu is amazing. And New York, Jersey, that whole area is incredible. And then everywhere else kind of blends together. But you could have just looked at the results from Worlds and been able to figure that out,
Right.
Like Marcelo Garcia's got a bunch of killers. Unity's got killers. Henzo's got killers. You know, 10th Planet's got killers. Atos has them. AOJ has them. So it's like, it's actually how it is. Because when people move to the you know, when they move for jiu-jitsu, that's where they go. You go east or west. And that's why we spend most of our time out there, because that's where the jiu-jitsu bought us.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so real quick, I don't know if you'd mind rehashing an old story, and it may be partly why you're not so keen in the South, but did you not have an interesting and unfortunate event in Atlanta prior to a tournament?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny, though. I mean, it was a growing experience for us as a company, you know, if you will. We drove all the way through the middle of the night, and you know, we drove all the way through the middle of the night. We got to a TGI Fridays, and we're, you know, excited to go eat something and get off the road, and parked inside, went and eat, and came back out, and our windows were bashed out, and we had our you know, I had 2 computers, which was like the way that we were running, you know, the video wall and sound system and all that stuff. 3 computers, cameras, all our stuff got stolen, you know, from us the night before the event, because it was a 1-day build, you know. And, you know, so, I mean, it sucked, you know, but, I mean, it made us grow as a company, because, I mean, at the point, I didn't even have insurance to cover that kind of stuff, you know. Kind of still, even though it was like our 35th show, I was still kind of, you know, flying by the seat of my pants, you know. And, you know, so, I mean, it helped us mature as a company and step up, get insurance. We bulletproofed our windows for our truck, and, you know, haven't had to deal with any issues like that since, you know. But, I mean, there really isn't any blame other than I blame ourselves for that, you know. We weren't prepared for a situation like that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, you have to be prepared for the worst. You know, you got to have fail-safe. You know, and it was an expensive lesson to learn. You know, it's one of those things where it's like I had business insurance for $150,000 at the time, and, you know, because I'm a home-based business. And then they're like, well, we only cover up to $1,000 if you're not at your home.
Oh, man.
You know, it's like, yeah, so it's like you think you're covered and you're not. So now we have like $500,000 worth of coverage, and someone stole my trailer. Everything's covered, you know, stuff like that. But I mean, it's just growing pains, things you learn, you know, as you grow up. And it was a tough pill to swallow when it happened, but you know, I'm over it now. It's one of the reasons I don't go back to Atlanta. But you know, it's you know, sometimes that kind of stuff needs to happen in order for you to grow as a company and as a person.
Yeah, awesome. And then did I read that you stepped in and filled a spot on the card that night as well?
My buddy was fighting Diego Saraiva that night, and he was like jumping around like right before his match on the stage, and jumped up, jumped down, and blew his ACL.
Oh man!
And I mean, it was a freak injury, and it was a freak injury. And you know, Diego's a little guy; he's only like 160 pounds, and I was probably like 200 at the time. And he'd sold a bunch of tickets, and people were there to see him. And I asked the next couple guys that were fighting that were around his weight if they wanted to fight him, and he'd beaten the crap out of all of them in local competitions, and they were just like, "Nah, I don't want to fight Diego." And I was like, "I don't care, I'll fight him, whatever." And I just went out there. I mean, it's not the only time it's happened. It's happened multiple times where me and my team have had to step in and take a match the day of the event, you know. And you know, it just happens. I mean, but it's jiu-jitsu, so I mean, you might not be ready for it, but it's just a jiu-jitsu match. Worst is you lose. You can always tap.
Yeah.
Right?
Like say you're training all the time
really
anyway.
You really should have no fear going out there and competing, in my opinion.
You mentioned your team. How big is the team you travel with?
There is 8 of us, or no, total of 10 of us total that do everything.
Okay. And
we have a production manager, we have a video guy, we have sound tech. I mean, it's a production company is what it is, you know. It's a production company that produces events, and then I do everything else. You know, Missy handles all the logistics. and then I handle, all the promotion and matchmaking and all that kind of stuff. So it really works, I mean, we tried adding more people, and we're such a messed up group of individuals. Like, it's really like a very dysfunctional family, but it works, And so it's like the number of people we have now is pretty solid, and I think it's 10 is where we're at right now.
Okay, so the referees, are they local people that you hire?
We bring one with us, and then we hire black belts from the area.
Okay, and what kind of training or qualifications are you looking for in a potential referee?
Well, it's super easy to referee fight to win pro versus refereeing any other tournament. It's super easy because, I mean, it's like, all right, well, if the guy wins by submission, the match is over. If one guy is beating the other guy handily in submissions or submission attempts, he's going to win.
Yeah.
If it's really close, you just decide who you feel won the fight. Like, it's that simple.
Just like the rest of us do all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is simple to judge, in my opinion. There are matches that are very in the gray area, about 20% of the matches, 10% of the matches, I would say, on each show. And I'd say half of those matches go to the person I think should win. But then again, it's like I said, if you fight to win and you leave it all out there and you don't fight not to lose, then you should win every match. You should know, And if you gave it everything you had and he gave it everything he had, it's going to go to a split decision. The winner, then somebody's got to win. There's no draws. Draws are lame as hell. We're not doing any of that crap, But, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. So just be that guy. Just make sure you don't lose. When I lost that match in Cleveland, I thought I lost for sure. I thought I lost because I didn't finish him.
Right.
It's like I failed to do my job in a submission on the match to submit my opponent. I didn't do it, so I lose. Like, that's my mindset. It's like, if I win, cool, but I don't care. But a lot of people don't have that mindset. A lot of people, so concerned with winning and losing that they really don't leave it all out there just because they're afraid of losing. But that's not me.
From a spectator's point of view, how do you feel about some of the promotions that have the overtime deciding rules? You a fan of those?
Are you talking about EBI's rules?
Yeah, similar to that, where you have an overtime, you start in the back.
I like anything that's different. I hate people that copycat my promotion and try to do exactly what I do. I like EBI because he created his own rule set, and he created a new way of doing things, and, Eddie's a super cool guy, and, it's a cool rule set, it's different, You should, but that's the thing is, if you're training jiu-jitsu, you should be good at all rule sets. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if there's overtime. It doesn't matter if it's submission only. It doesn't matter if it's points. You should still be you're working to finish the fight at all times.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't really think rule sets matter. I can beat an IBJJF tomorrow, and I can beat submission only the next day. Like, it doesn't make a difference. You should still be fighting for submission. If that's not your game, then you're just boring anyways.
Yep. Yeah. For sure. How do you handle weight cutting? Not you personally, but with your fighters. Do you weigh in the night before?
I don't really encourage weight cutting. I mean, they can weigh in the day before, but when people apply, they'll apply for like 170, black belt gi. I'm going to try to get them a match between 165 and 175.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not really big into weight cutting for jiu-jitsu. I have to lose a lot of weight because I get super fat. But when I apply for shows, I'm always looking for matches around 200. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for matches at 170 because I'm 235 pounds right now.
Yeah.
I know that if I train hard and eat good, I'm going to get down to 200 easily. So that's what I'm looking for. My best competition weight, not necessarily what I can suck down to.
Right. Now, you and I are older, and I'm also heavier, so for us it's a little bit different. But for the 28-year-old, if you're walking around comfortably at 170, you're not heavy like me, that's a comfortable weight for you. Does it really help a lot to try and drop down to 160 anyway?
I mean, I think it does.
You think you so if you can do it without,
I think if you stuck out and you could add 20 pounds on over your opponent the next day, then yeah, it helps. But then again, I mean, how's it going to affect your performance? How's it going to affect your game? Is now this guy going to be a lot faster than you? I mean, everybody's different. you know? I mean, when I weigh in at 205, I'm usually 210 the day I compete. I don't, because I lose the weight. I don't cut it. I lose it.
Right.
I lose the body fat. I drop some water, but the only thing I'm cutting really is maybe 10 pounds of water, which I'll put back in. But you pay for that too, you know? Yeah. But that's part of the mental part of competing, in my opinion, weight cutting, you know, is getting your body to where it performs at its best ability, you know? So, I mean, some people it works really well for, and some people it doesn't. But, you know, I mean, I think everybody's a little different when it comes to that.
Hey, something ran across my mind earlier today. It's the first time I thought about it, and I thought you'd be a good guy to see if thoughts ever crossed your mind. But there's a lot of talk lately about sports betting, and it's becoming more common in more areas. Is that something that you would see as harmful for combat sports, or?
I think it's great.
Yeah?
Anything that puts more money into the sports and gets more interest in it, I think it's great, you know? You know, gambling happens regardless if it's legalized or not. It's like gun control. You want to control people's guns, but the people that have a bunch of guns, they're not going to go by the rules. And the people that are going to gamble aren't going to go by the rules anyway, so who cares? Especially if it comes to jiu-jitsu, we can get new eyes on the sport, you know? So, I mean, I'm all about it, you know? But I also run a company with integrity. I know what we're doing, you know? But then again, you know, I mean, I think it's cool, you know. I'm not a big gambler myself. I'll go to Vegas and not even spend a quarter on a slot machine. I work too hard for my money just to throw it away.
Yep.
No. But, you know, if they're going to gamble, why not gamble on us instead of gambling on football?
There you go.
You know, let the degenerates be degenerates and let us take some of the money and give it to the athletes.
Sure. That's exactly what I was thinking. There's all kinds of built-in prop bets, you know, like out of 17 matches, how many will end in a submission, or, you know, you got all those over-under type prop bets. It's perfect for it. So maybe one day.
Yeah. I've contacted BetDSI a few times about it, you know. So, I mean, it's something that I hope that we can get on the platform later. We don't have, you know, I think the only company that could probably set up to do it is probably ACB, but those guys are straight, you know, blood gangsters from Russia. So who knows if they would, you know, abide by the rules when it comes to gambling. But, you know, they have all the superstars now. So it's like that's who people are going to want to gamble on.
Right.
You know, people don't want to gamble on the local guys. There's not as much. It's just not as good. It just won't work as well. You know?
Yeah. So, Seth, you've been running a successful business for a while now. Do you have any advice for people who think they might want to make their living in the jiu-jitsu sphere, whether or not it's running tournaments or if it's making gis, just business in general? You got any good business advice for the guys out there?
Well, in my opinion, if you're in the jiu-jitsu space because you love jiu-jitsu and you think you can help grow the sport, and you live this lifestyle, then it's great. I think if you're in this business to try to make money, you need to go somewhere else because there's enough people trying to do that. And the people that are just trying to make money will always cut corners in order to get a result instead of doing the right thing. You know, and that's in any business. You know, you really have to be passionate about what you're doing, and you have to be passionate about, you know, helping something be the best that you can and being a valuable asset to that organization or sport or company or whatever you're doing. And if you're just doing it as a money play, then just go somewhere else because it's not needed. There's enough people that actually care, and we don't need people that don't.
Yep, I hear you. So, real quick before we wrap it up, do you have any partners or anybody that co-sponsors events with you or teammates that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, you know, Muscle Farm and Gameness have been with us for a few years now, and you know, done a lot for the athletes, sponsor a lot of the athletes, and give us money so we can help pay our bills. And you know, we're very grateful and appreciative to them for that.
Nice, Seth. It's been great having you on. What's next for Fight to Win? This podcast will air sometime 1st of July, I think. So you got something coming up July, August that people should be looking for?
Yeah, we've got a show every weekend in July.
Okay.
Starting in Columbus on July 6th, and then Boston on the 14th, Philly on the 21st, and Baltimore on the 28th, and you can watch all of them on flowgrappling.com.
Awesome. And for the listeners, we'll have a link in the show notes to Fight to Win Pro's contact information, their website, and Flow Grappling, all the information you'll need to catch Fight to Win Pro. Seth, again, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time to be on with me tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Okay, you too, Seth. We'll talk to you later. Okay, I'd like to thank Seth Daniels for coming on the show, taking some time out to talk with us, and I look forward to seeing Fight to Win Pro down here in the South soon.
Yeah, we, he's got his opinions about that part of the country. We love all our listeners anywhere in the world. And glad you're listening to our training. But yeah, cool interview, Joe. You did great, and it was interesting to hear from Seth and learn about his journey in jiu-jitsu and how that's ultimately grown towards running a pretty large company that does basically weekly grappling competitions, and it's televised on Flow Grappling, and he has some of the best competitors in the world competing on his show. And man, really cool guy to talk with.
I'm not going to say Gary and Byron support his opinions, but neither of them have ever been cited in the Gulf State Coast before.
I've been all up and down Florida.
Okay.
That's about, I don't think I've ever been to, I don't know. I don't know. I largely haven't traveled to that side of the country. But I know Joe has.
Yeah, I can vouch for the people down here. They're good folk.
Yep. You could have a negative experience anywhere. That's easy to say.
I actually did live in Atlanta, Georgia for a little while.
They kicked him out. He was too weird. So we have a question of the episode. This question is one that wasn't really sent to us, but I had a conversation with somebody. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to say that for a question episode. So if you have a question, send it to bjjbrick@gmail.com and write question for the podcast, and we'll answer it on our BJJ Brick Extra episode. But this question, I was talking with somebody, and basically they were saying, my teammates are getting better faster than me. And he was frustrated because people that he could submit easily are now submitting him. And he's just sharing some frustrations, and he really expressed that he's either learning much slower than everybody else or getting actually worse at jiu-jitsu. And
man, this is exactly what I told myself when I started. I started a little before Byron, and Byron's learning curve was much better than mine. And, my first couple of years in this, it seemed like everybody was getting better. People who'd started after me by 2 years were beating me. And I would tell myself that all the time. And this was kind of back in the day before there was a lot of stuff online. There wasn't a lot to it. And there was also dial-up internet, which you couldn't even upload any of the stuff that were online. But I'm telling you, I am a slow learner. It takes me a while. But I have got so much satisfaction out of never quitting and just seeing myself just rise above all those people that were giving me trouble. And, it took me a while. But then one day, all that just clicked. And, I just think it goes back to that doggedness, that determination, that I also look at it that instead of saying, darn, these people are beating me, I've been doing it longer, I should be beating them. I also started looking at it that, hey, I'm probably in a better position because I'm the bottom guy in this room. The bottom guy in this room, I think, has the best opportunity to grow. And I just kept at it. I just tried to pay attention. I tried to show up. And then as I started getting in, many more years in this game, everything just started changing. And I think, and I tell myself today when I talk to people about it, I think I get such more satisfaction out of it than I would if I was that guy who caught on to everything real quick, because I know the struggle and the toil behind it, that, I could have easily quit like a lot of people do, and I could have just hung it up. But, man, I just sit there and think of how hard I worked and all of a sudden the fruit starts growing, and it starts everything starts working out.
So, Gary, what you're saying is, at least for you, that it's not the pace that's so important. It's the as long as you're moving the right direction.
So true, Joe. And we're all going to get there. And not everybody learns at the same pace. And it's not just not everybody learns at the same pace. There's people who explain it that a way you can understand it. There was a guy, Matt Kirtley, and I think he might have even been on this show. But Matt Kirtley, I started watching some of his videos, and the way he explained stuff really helped out my half guard. Just little tips like, hips under hips. I'm going to be able to sweep you at that point. And that's when my game really started turning. I found somebody that really I could understand what he was saying. Ryan Hall stuff, the way he explained stuff, he really helped me out too. And just the way my brain works, I'm a hands-on guy, and everybody teaches a little bit differently and has a different teaching style. And I just found a couple people online. I haven't trained with these people in person, but I found a couple people online that felt like the way they talked about something, I really understood it. Where other people had tried to tell me, and it just didn't. It just didn't take for me. It's not that they weren't teaching it properly or whatever. It's just everybody's mind works a little bit differently.
I would say, and this is for me personal, the question is, why am I learning so much slower than my teammates? And oftentimes it's just your perception, but it's always worth asking yourself when you're frustrated like that, am I doing everything I could be doing to get better? I mean, it may be that they are getting better faster than me because I'm only going 7 or 8 times a month, or maybe I'm not doing any study on the side. And if it is important to you that you're progressing, if you have the time, if you have the means, it might be worth adding some additional training or some additional training resources.
Great point, Joe.
From a little different angle, but you guys do make a lot of good points.
Oh, we make some great points.
And that's why they call you the pencil sharpener, Gary. But it really doesn't matter that somebody else is getting better faster than you. I mean, it's an individual journey. And I know that can be frustrating. I guess that's where it matters. Where if it gets frustrating enough to where you want to quit, that's an issue that you need to deal with. But the goal that you have as far as maintaining pace with these people or not letting them pass you, that's an external goal. It involves somebody else. This person might be studying your game with a lot of depth. They might be, like Joe said, just going home and doing homework. They might be putting in a lot of off the mat time to get better. Who knows? And maybe they're just naturally picking up better. But none of that matters to you. Get better at your own jiu-jitsu at the pace that you could handle. If you're a very busy person and you work a lot and you've got family events to go to, games to attend of the kids and birthday parties and all, you got a lot going on. That's all going to affect your jiu-jitsu. But it doesn't affect your life in a negative way, so you want to maintain those things and have that quality of life. But just understand where you are right now in your life, that sometimes people are going to just creep past you. And, I try to be positive about that as they get caught by lower, ranking belts sometimes, hey, good job. I can't remember last time I was frustrated. I know I have been, more as a blue belt, occasionally as a purple belt. I was frustrated with somebody. Oh man, they caught me. That person shouldn't have caught me because, they were a lower ranking belt than me. But really be happy for them. They've worked hard to catch somebody as skilled as you are. Even if you're, on the mat for 6 months, you're pretty skilled compared to the average person. It takes some skill to tap you out, and just keep. It's your journey, and the people that are your teammates are, on the side helping you when they can. But to see them have their journey at a little quicker pace, don't let that affect you in a negative way. Continue on your journey, and someday you might be on a podcast explaining, I was a brown belt for like 10 years. And it took me forever to get promoted, and I really tried, and I talked to my coaches about getting black belt, and I couldn't do it, but that's a story that's unique to somebody, and you could help somebody else with your story later on. But external goals often lead to disappointments, and I was cognizant when this person was telling me his frustrations. Some of it was venting, some of it was just let this person talk, let him get it off his chest, but. We have some stud athletes at the gym, and you can't keep up with all of them. They're going to pass people like me and people like the guy who was asking me this, and that's okay. I'm maintaining my journey. I'm trying to get better, at a pace that is comfortable or sometimes uncomfortable, but is attainable by me, and with jiu-jitsu that I'm happy with. And occasionally a teammate will come in, one day and I roll great with them, and then several, a month or two later, they're getting the better of me. And that's just how jiu-jitsu goes sometimes. And that's not a reason to get mad at yourself or to quit jiu-jitsu.
And, that shows what jiu-jitsu is all about. Byron's listening to this person and letting them vent. Jiu-jitsu, all your teammates are there for you. They're going to let you vent. They're going to pick you up. They're going to, bring you to the mat. They're going to do everything to make sure you're okay. And, sometimes we just need to vent and just hear it from somebody else. And when you have good teammates like Byron and Joe and, everybody Joe trains with it and Byron trains with it, it's a team. It's a family. We're here for each other. And, don't ever be afraid to talk to your teammates, talk to your coach. And, if you have to vent, that's perfect. Sometimes it's good just to get it out there and just have a little talk. And remember, they're always there for you.
Yeah, that being said, it's different venting to a teammate than going home and venting to a family member or a spouse that doesn't train at all. It really comes off as complaining about something that you spend time and money doing. So yeah, your coach, a fellow teammate, man, that guy's killing me. He used to never kill me. Am I getting worse? What's happening? Try that at the gym with somebody who could actually help you or give you some actual advice versus going home and telling your wife, I think I'm getting actually worse at this. Everybody's having me out tonight. Well, do you really want to keep going?
You're spending all this time and money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's currently frustrated and you need to vent, you can find Byron in Wichita, Kansas, and you can vent, and then you can get some rolls in with them. If you want to train with Gary, you can roll with Gary while you're in Wichita as well. If you'd like to roll with me, or just if you're in the South, hit me up. And if you're near Houston or New Orleans, and we'll see if we can get together and train.
Yep. One of the cool things that we did over the BJJBrick summer camp was take a picture of all three of us hanging out, because that hadn't happened.
The first time we have not met Joe until a couple weeks ago.
And Gary doesn't like taking out with me. But
yeah, I wouldn't have came if Joe wasn't going to be there.
So we got an updated About Us page on the website, which is kind of fun. It has all three of us on there and has a little bit of information of where you'll find us and where you can choke us. So that's always good to have. That's one of the things you do once when you make a website and you kind of forget about it, and then hey, I should update the About Us page.
Yeah, because Joe joined a long time ago.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but we never had any pictures. But to Joe, it felt like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Greg, Mark, and David. Thanks, guys, for the support on Patreon. What most of our Patreon supporters are doing are listening to the podcast, saying, man, I want these guys to do the best job they can. I want to help them make the show grow. And most go in and they pitch in $1 per episode. And if that's something that you want to do, there'll be a link in the show notes to Patreon. And then we mail you out a 5-inch BJJBrick gi patch, a sticker, and you are invited to join our private Facebook group, except for I can't just go invite you because I don't know you on Facebook typically. So go find us or send me an email, bjjbrick@gmail.com. Say, hey, I'd like to join the Facebook group with a link to your Facebook page, or find me, Byron Jabara, on Facebook. There's only one, and I'll get you added in. And it's just a way that on Facebook we're able to kind of stay connected with some of the more dedicated listeners. You're all important, and we love y'all. But some of you guys who are helping support the show financially, we want to give you a little bit more. And sometimes we'll mention, hey, I'm interviewing somebody this week, this particular person, what should we ask? And getting a little bit of input from you guys on there. That's kind of a fun way to do that. But thanks, guys, for the support on Patreon. If you wanted to help us out, we'd love to have you part of that. It's the Patreon team.
Yeah, the Patreon support helped put on the BJJBrick experience. And Jake Fox hosted it, helped me with some travel costs. I know he hosted some people staying at his house. I just want to say that weekend, I think the greatest thing about it was it really just shows the generosity and the graciousness of the jiu-jitsu community. you could look at everybody training on the mats, and they were from a number of different schools, a number of different states, but you would know that they weren't all long-time training partners. And so I just wanted to comment on that, and thank you so much to our Patreon supporters.
The best quote of the week, as Joe's looking at everybody on the mat, he turns to me and he's like, man, there's a whole bunch of guys with shaved heads, big beards, and red hair. He's like, do you have a lot of Vikings in Wichita? That was the quote of the week.
Yeah, it was a rough-looking bunch, but couldn't be nicer, and that's just typical jiu-jitsu mats.
Joe was said, I'm waiting for them to pull the long swords out.
Yeah.
At that point in time, Gary had pulled his short swords out.
And Joe was disappointed.
Wow.
Wow. Speaking of wow, check out BJJBrick on social media. YouTube, the Facebook, the interwebs, we're all over the place. We also have a BJJBrick app. Easy way to listen to the show each and every week. And the first week of the month, you get 2 episodes, which is what this BJJ Extra is. So definitely check us out, YouTube, Facebook, and check out the BJJBrick app.
Yep, it's fun connecting with you guys on social media. And if you enjoy the show, reach out, let us know. I'll go ahead and review or read all the reviews we've got on iTunes last month. That was them right there. We didn't get any new reviews on iTunes. So if you want to write us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast, we'd love to have that and hear your opinion. Hopefully we get 5 stars and it'll help out the show. But we do like the reviews, and it's like a good pat on the back. But we'll pat you guys on the back next week. Next week we have an interview with Rafael Lovato Sr. And man, this was an interview I was super happy to land. I get as excited, if not more, interviewing like top-notch coaches versus like top-notch athletes. And athletes are great, and everybody loves to hear from the great athletes, but coaches, he's coached his son up, to world championship status. What's happening there? I want to know. And he was like an open book and just shared so much about his life and on and off the mat. Fascinating guy. Rafael Lovato Sr., father of Rafael Lovato Jr., if you hadn't done the math on that one. But learned a lot last week when I interviewed him, and we'll share it with you guys next week on the BJJBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better. We'll see you on the mats, guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.